Do you want to be blessed on the gross or on the net? That's a phrase that pastors use to manipulate people into giving them money. And I've got a whole list of them that you and your older family members need to be aware of so they don't get duped. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. All right, the next one, the one that is most insidious and is often used as sort of a foundation to do the other things, is that if you give to God, you will be blessed 100-fold in return. So if you give $10, you'll get $1,000 back. And most likely, the pastor is going to reference one of two verses. And the first one is likely going to be Matthew chapter 29, verses 29 and 30, where Jesus is talking about all the things that people leave behind to follow him. And they would literally have to leave behind those things. They would have to walk away because they're walking around and following Jesus. And what Jesus is saying there is that if you leave behind those things, the community that you are going to find, this loving and graceful, peaceful, accepting community, is going to be 100 times as good as what you left. It's not talking about money at all. The next passage that they might offer you is from Matthew chapter 13, verse 8. It's the parable of the sower, and it talks about seeds that fall on the good ground will grow up and produce a harvest of 100-fold. And the idea is that you sow into the good ground of that church and you will receive 100 times what you put in. But that's not what that verse is talking about. It's talking about telling people and instructing people in the way to follow Jesus. And if you do that, if you plant those seeds in the fertile ground of their hearts, the life that they will live as they journey and become more and more like the loving and peaceful and accepting Jesus will be 100 times as good as the life that they had before. Not talking about money. This is probably as good a place as any to mention that tithing is not in the Bible, the 10% thing, and I've got videos specifically on that. The next one, and I am very ashamed to say that I used this when I was in a more conservative, evangelical mode and brainwashing, but it's from Malachi, and it says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. And the idea is that you give your 10% to the church, only the church, and you don't give to other charities unless you have more than 10% to give. This is a completely wrong understanding because it misunderstands what was going on in the culture. In that culture, the people who gave to the church were not just giving to the church to run the church. This was the way that country provided social services. And so it was as much part of the tax that provided for the poor as it was to help the church pay its light bills, or there weren't light bills, like candle bills. Oh my gosh, and this one, you can't outgive God. Like, if you want to give God $10, you'll get $1,000 in return. But if you want to try $1,000, do it. I even heard that one pastor said you can take out a loan. You take out a payday loan, you put that all in the offering plate, and God will reward that. And that is wrong. That's manipulating. That's actually not how the world works. And but this, you can't outgive God, is this idea that if you give, God is going to give back to you even more, and you just keep giving, give more and more and more and more and more, and then God will give to you. And I've heard so many stories of people giving all of their Social Security check to churches and receiving nothing in return. And when they asked the church to help, they said no. And then there's this last one that I feel like, for me, the way I've seen it used just is maybe the worst. I don't know. But it says that God loves a cheerful giver. And on the face of it, that sounds good. Don't give money that you don't want to give, right? Be happy about it. If you can't be happy about it, don't give it. I would say that. I'd say that's maybe the best metric. Give what you want to give. Give what makes you feel good and like you're supporting an organization that you are receiving really helpful things from. That's a really good metric, but it's used in another way. I've actually heard pastors who, when somebody comes up and says, look, I gave $100, I didn't get $10,000 back, they say, well, were you reluctant in giving that money? And they say, well, yeah. He said, well, that's the thing. God loves a cheerful giver. If you're not giving out of a cheerful heart, out of a joyful heart, you're not going to get the reward. And whew, if that isn't some deep manipulation, I don't know what is. And I know I've only scratched the surface. So if you've got more comments that you've heard from pastors, just post them right here. And there's enough, I'll make another video.